The White Room. Here it all begins for Kiyotaka Ayanokoji. He was raised among other kids by this organization led by his father. Under several mental and physical training, kids start to disappear one by one after one of them collapsed with breathing problems. Kiyotaka is the last kid remaining living like a caged bird. Some few years later, Kiyotaka sits on a bus to his new school, the place where everything will happen. Also the only place that can protect Kiyotaka from his father. Tokyo Metropolitan Advanced Nurturing High School is a school that guarantees a 100% success and college admission rate. Students get a welcome speech from the president of the Students' Council. Now in his Class D classroom, Harada Yasuke introduces himself to the class and suggests that everyone else does the same. Hikayo Kushida introduces herself and looked ready to befriend everyone. Moreover, everyone felt safe around her. The rest of the class continue to introduce themselves until we reach the main characters. Kiyotaka Ayanokoji is a mysterious person. He avoids getting into problems and awkward situations at all costs. Nevertheless, he is also really smart but hides it, as he purposely got 50% marks in every admission exam. The whole time, he was analyzing everything around him and listening carefully to what others are saying. Nevertheless, he is terrible in conversation, something apparent from his boring introduction of himself. Suzune Horikita is the girl sitting beside Kiyotaka. From the moment they met on the bus, she looked a lot like him in her personality. She also keeps to herself and doesn't get along with anyone. The teacher enters and she starts to explain the rules of the school. The students are not allowed to have any contact with the outside world. Instead, the school gave them everything they could dream of. They live in dorms and they buy anything and everything they need from stores on campus. In addition, to buy whatever they need, the school offers 100,000 points per month as currency in these stores instead of money. Moreover, anything can be bought with points, yes, anything. Second, there is no such thing as exchanging class. These students were assigned to Class D and they will stay so for the next 3 years. In addition, that teacher, SAE Sensei, is responsible for them for the next 3 years. Everyone was happy with the system and how they can afford all kinds of things thanks to these points that work as money. But a fight between Ken Sudo and students from another class suggests that there is something wrong with Class D. They said, "Hell is waiting for you." This is further established when the teacher is giving the lesson, not caring who is napping, checking their phone, or reading something else. But nobody cared what these things mean. On the 1st of May, students didn't get their points for that month until everything becomes clear. The teacher explains that their performance in class is reflected in their monthly points. Therefore, their reckless behavior costs them money. The school judges students based on merits, she said. This means the students of Class D are at the bottom of the list. Garbage as she described them. That's why the school took away all of their students' points. Chabashira explains the S system to her students. It is a system of gaining and losing points based on performance. The main point, pun intended, is that if you gain more points than the class above you, you get promoted and they get demoted. So, Ayanokoji and Suzune conclude that for their dreams to come true, for them to have a chance at university, they need to overtake Class C. And to do that, they need to pass the exams. So, they decided to round up the 3 failures of the class in a study group to help them pass. That way they don't damage the class. Horikita states clearly that her being assigned to Class D is a mistake, and she will do whatever it takes to reach Class A, that being her goal and ambition. One night while Kiyotaka was out getting a drink, he saw Suzune about to be beaten by her brother. He stops him, and we see his great reflexes and stamina. Impressed, Suzune's brother asks what Kiyotaka practices: piano and calligraphy. This incident gave the motives behind Horikita's desire to reach Class A. She is looking for acceptance from her brother, who is the president of the Students' Council there. We are surprised that everyone in Class D passed the test with excellence. We go back 3 days ago to see how they pulled that off. Suzune is helping Sudo, the kid who's always angry to study, for her sake. Ayanokoji strikes a deal with a third-year student who is in Class D to get questions of his first year in exchange for points. However, even with the help of Ayanokoji and Horikita, Sudo still failed the exam, which means he will be expelled. So, to avoid that, Ayanokoji and Horikita strike a deal with their teacher to sell the 1 point Sudo needs to pass the exam, in exchange for 10,000 points. Some of the students, including Sudo, celebrate this occasion in Kiyotaka's room where Kushida forgets her phone. Ayanokoji follows her outside after she left to see that she was more than what she let on. And we see another side of Kikayo Kushida, a bitter, resentful human being who deeply hates Horikita. So, when Kiyotaka catches her, she asked him to keep her secret or she will accuse him of sexually assaulting her, which will be ground for expulsion. Manabu Horikita, Suzyun's brother, gets wind of an incident between Sudo and 3 students from Class C. They claim that he was the one who attacked them, but Sudo insists that they started the fight with him. That wasn't the first time these things happened. One time Sudo got into a fight with the same students. However, the fight was stopped by a student from Class B named Ikanos. Ikanos would ask for the help of Kiyotaka to pretend that they are together to avoid confronting a friend about her feelings. Instead, he gave her advice that the truth is a better choice than lies and pretense. That helped her in her situation, and she became grateful to Ayanokuji. And when the whole school knew about this fight between Sudo and the students from Class C, Ikanos tried to help Class D look for any witnesses that could prove Sudo's innocence. There was a witness named Eri Sakura who witnessed the incident but never came forward. The typical useless Sakura. Sakura is trying to get her camera repaired after it was knocked down by Kushida in class. At the same time, a special trial was held by the student council to look into the circumstances behind the incident of Sudo with the Class C students. Sakura steps forward finally. She's not that useless after all, and proves with pictures from her camera that Sudo was only fighting back. The trial ends with both parties insisting on their side of the story. Manabu gave them 1 day for one side to take back its false accusations before he finds out himself and expels that party. Ayanokuji and Suzyun create a ruse to convince Class C students to withdraw their complaints. The ruse succeeded and Suzyun took the credit for the idea as she was her own. But she soon found out that Ayanokuji led her to think like that by manipulating her. He denied these accusations, saying that he was only helping a friend. The gap between them started to widen. Suzyun is starting to suspect Ayanokuji's intentions after her teacher's words. She pressures Kiyotaka to tell her about his motives, so he briefly reflected on his past before saying he will help her to get into Class A, but she shouldn't pry into his life. Meanwhile, the guy from Class C who set the incident up meets some students from Class A. One of them was Arisu Sakayanagi, the queen of Class A. He promised them that he will crush every class, starting with Class D. As a break from all the stress of points and losing, Kiyotaka goes with some of his classmates to the pool in the summer. However, we discover that he accepted their invitation after some boys in his class were planning to peep into the girls' changing room. Although he didn't want to participate, he knew that they wouldn't listen to anything he says if he tries to stop them. So, he decided to join but asked Suzyun's help to sabotage their plan. Together, they were able to stop their plan and helped Suzyun make a public statement, promising everyone in the pool that Class D will get out of the bottom and overtake the classes above. The school took the students on a sort of cruise vacation. A new message reaches the school ordering it to expel Kiyotaka. So, his teacher uses this message as a threat to expel him if he doesn't try to reach Class A. Kiyotaka meets his teacher in the theater on board, but Kiyotaka and Suzyun both suspected that there may be an ulterior motive. The cruise was headed to a private island, owned by the school. When they reached the island, their suspicion became a reality. The school was planning a special test, a survival test to see if they could live in the wilderness for a week while obeying some rules. Using the S system of gaining and losing points, the school is putting students against each other and nature. They gave them only basic things. Anything else they may need should be bought using the points they gave them. The teachers of the 4 classes also explained that the class with the highest points will be the winner at the end. Soon after that, a conflict started to rise between the students of Class D, but it was resolved quickly by Harada, the popular guy. The class then remembered that they can earn bonus points by securing a spot, so the search started to find one. Another way to gain points is to guess the leader of the class at the end of the test. The leader is the only one with a key card to secure the spots, so the rest of the class should protect the identity of the leader at all costs. Another important rule was that the leader cannot be changed unless there is a very good reason for that. After finding their spot, the work was divided between them to secure supplies for camping. They found a student from Class C by the name of Mio Ibuki all beaten up, and they decided to help her and take her to their spot. They had everything figured out until one of them went rogue and decided to break the rules. His decision cost the class 30 points. Each class took different strategies to secure spots. Class B and D worked collectively to do everything. They divided the work between them and help each other when in need. The difference was that Class B was more disciplined than D. On the other side, Class A used violence. When Suzyun, accompanied by Kiyotaka, tried to take a look inside Class A's spot, which was a cave with the entrance hidden with curtains. She was stopped by Kohei, who summons his security force and warns her that her right to enter was an intrusion on their territory and that might lead to a start of a war. Class C led by Ryuen, who decided that the test wasn't worth the trouble and decided to enjoy his vacation. He spent all of the points given to the class on luxurious items and started partying on the beach. Ayanokuji suspects the girl from Class C because Suzyun's key card was stolen while she was bathing. Then, the manual explaining the rules and having the list of things they could buy using the points was burned, and Ibuki disappeared shortly after that. Orikita tries to stop Ibuki but fails to do so because of her illness. She passed out shortly after that. Kiyotaka takes Suzyun to the teacher to take care of her after she passed out. This means she dropped out, which would affect the points of Class D. The next morning, which is the last day of the test, all of the classes were assembled by the beach. At that moment, we see Ryuen come out of nowhere and start to explain the ruse. As predicted, Ibuki was planning the theft with Class A. However, she was only taking orders from Ryuen. A series of flashbacks will begin showing Class C sending their spies to Class B and D after they allied with Class A. C will get the key cards proving who is the leader of B and D, and transferring 200 points to Class A. Ryuen played all sides to get the names of all the leaders. This way he takes 50 points from all classes. It will also be revealed at the end that he got another thing from this deal. Each month, Class A will transfer 20,000 points to Ryuen. But Class D surprised everyone when the teacher announced that they came first. The test ended, so they went back to the cruise. Suzyun woke up and heard the news. So, she started looking for Kiyotaka everywhere until she found him. She asked him to explain everything. Going back in time to the island, we see Kiyotaka going back to the spot where he found Mio, and discovers a communicator like Ryuen, confirming her as a spy. He also looked in her bag one night and found a camera that was supposed to take a picture of their key card. So, he destroys the camera, leaving her no choice but to steal the actual card. And to provide the perfect cover for her, he set fire to the manual book they were given. When he knew that his plan was successful, he used the rules to change their leader. Using the illness of Suzyun, he made himself the leader, which destroyed the plan of Class C. He also guessed the leaders of Classes N and C. He only left out Class B because he recognized a partnership that could have its advantages in the future. After that, Kiyotaka was contacted again by his teacher. She told him that his father was the man who sent the message asking the school to expel his son. But he also admitted to her that his son would leave the school on his own. When Kiyotaka meets Suzyun after this, she asked why he gave her credit for his idea. He told her that she needed allies, and she told him that she is seeing him as an ally. The surprising twist was the internal thoughts of Kiyotaka we hear. He acknowledges to himself that he doesn't care about anyone. For him, people are simply tools to help him win. They are just means to an end. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.